All right, welcome everyone. My name is Mary Travellini. I am with the Department of Environmental Protection for Montgomery County, Maryland. I recognize that we may have some participants that are outside of Montgomery County, but the majority of you should be from within Montgomery County or working within Montgomery County. I won't be speaking much. I will be passing it off to our esteemed host, but just wanted to start off with talking about the changes that are coming here in Montgomery County. Already in the county, gas-powered leaf blowers and vacuums cannot be sold, but starting next July 1st, 2025, gas-powered handheld, backpack, and walk-behind leaf blowers and vacuums will be prohibited throughout Montgomery County. This is a big change, and we recognize that, and that is why we have this presentation tonight as part of our education around the change and how to make the adjustment. I do want to pass off now to our esteemed hosts from the American Green Zone Alliance. We have Dan Mabe, and Dan will be taking us through all of the things that we want to know and more about the use of electric powered leaf blowers and other electric powered tools. Again, we will have questions towards the end. I will open up the chat partway towards the end for you to throw your questions in. And with that, I will pass it off to you, Dan.
Okay, thank you very much, Mary. First of all, we would like to thank everybody for your time this evening, and then also want to thank the Montgomery County team from the Department of Environmental Protection. It's been very rewarding working with you, and we appreciate, as the American Green Zone Alliance, AGZA, that you're taking some of these steps to offset some of the costs and have this engagement with the gardeners and the property owners. Okay, so the American Green Zone Alliance, who are we? We are a leader in low impact maintenance strategies, sustainable maintenance strategies. Our mission is to prudently transition the grounds maintenance industry to quieter, more sustainable practices. I want to stress prudently. And the applications are commercial crews who service municipalities, schools, and residential properties, whether you do your own property or you have a gardener that does your property. Before I move on, just a little quick background on myself. I actually come from the industry where I grew up, the man of the house. He was a gardener, and I spent my summers and my weekends doing this line of work. I had my own gas business, and around 2005 and a half, I came up with this wacky idea to start a gas-free business in what we call the pre-Lithiolithic era. I wish I had some of the tools that exist today, but it basically helped form AGZA and take me on the journey to where I'm at tonight. So as far as the ordinance and the new laws in Montgomery County go, we just want everybody to know that it's not just siloed there. This is something that's been going on for quite some time throughout the entire United States. As you can see here, we'll have to update this slide. I think it's getting closer to 250, even eclipse 250 and counting. But a lot of states, a lot of municipalities, they are putting some form of ban, restriction, or regulation in place. So coming from the industry myself, here's the top 10 impacts of gas operations. Of course, noise is the most noticeable one. And we'll start with that because it says tinnitus. Some people pronounce it tinnitus, but it's actually tinnitus. I have tinnitus myself. It's my fault. When I use gas tools, I did not put hearing protection on, and later now I'm in my 50s. It's catching up with me. So regardless if you use electric or gas, we're going to recommend that you wear proper PPE and hearing protection. But of course, on the top left, you have emissions. And this comes in the form of criteria pollution, ground ozone pollution, and greenhouse gases. There are health risks, especially for the operators. And then, as an operator, vibration next to noise, just to the right. When you use an electric tool versus a gas tool, it's much smoother and your body is less fatigued at the end of the day. Some other things to think about. Let's go to the bottom left, toxic and solid waste. These have to do with maintaining small gas engine fleets through their lifespan, and they do create an impact there, which we'll see in a couple more slides. And then if you do choose the right tool or tools, and you're successful with that electric tool or tools, they require much less maintenance, therefore much less expense. And the last 2 days have been pretty brutal. I'm in Southern California, and for some reason, it's just really picked up. And it's the noise. And I came back from Louisville, Kentucky. We went to the Equip Expo and brought a little bug back. So it's been very challenging with the leaf blower noise because it's just coming right through the house. And just to get a little sample of that, I don't mean to irritate anybody, but we're just gonna really understand what that's like. Okay, here's our gas contenders right here. Woo! All right, we got power trim. Looks like we have. Smoke coming out of the back of the blower there. All right, sorry about that, but just to hit it home and just to let you know, we're out in the field all the time. We're shadowing crews, we're training crews, and I try to impart on these people in the workforce to wear that hearing protection, if you will. So expanding on noise, this could be us right now in our houses. Or you can be in your backyard having a barbecue or a birthday party. We definitely know that gardeners have to work on the weekends as well sometimes. When the gas crews come, and especially the gas leaf blowers in particular, the noise is definitely an issue. It's because the sound frequency is low frequency component. It travels long distances and it penetrates barriers compared to the electric equipment, which is a higher pitch. It doesn't penetrate barriers as easily, and the noise pressure drops off significantly once you distance yourself from it. And we're going to have a couple of examples. The first example is going to be a large 74-inch lawnmower, and listen and look how quiet it is. So this is operated at one of our AGSA certified green zone school districts. As you can see, we didn't throw it a softball. We let the grass grow for 3 weeks straight to make sure that we had a very accurate account of what the mower can actually do in performance. And then again, understand how loud it was compared to its gas counterpart. So addressing worker health and environmental justice, there is that component coming from the industry. I'm not going to disparage any cities, and we had to block out the faces of these workers, but they confided in us. It happens to be a city in California that really touts itself as one of the most sustainable in the world. We were just really surprised that they're still doing this, and the workers are purchasing their own masks to really help get some relief from the exhaust from the tools that they use. And again, you can see some of those impacts, and the people using the tools are the ones that are going to be exposed the closest. So expanding on that solid and toxic waste, here's a visual on it. Just one worker throughout a year when they use, and we didn't put the string trimmer up there, but a walk-behind mower, a blower, a string trimmer. Those are the three core pieces of equipment in an operation most everywhere. And you can create this much solid waste for the year, if you will. And this goes directly into the landfills. Of course, electric is going to have some of this footprint, but it's going to be significantly different and lower. So with all that said, coming from the industry, AGSA frowns on demonizing workers. I can just tell you this industry needs help. It needs resources, it needs information, and it needs support. So we just encourage everyone in this vein. We know what they are. We know how annoying and sometimes just downright brutal it can be for people, especially with people with conditions. They're really sensitive to noise. But please don't demonize our workforce. I used to be one of these people here using a gas leaf blower to make a living, and then I transitioned over to electric. And believe me, when your gas business is really contingent on gas tools and that business model and the profitability is based on gas tools, it can be a little challenging sometimes to transition over. And again, I just really want to mention that we really appreciate that the county has the program in place to help bring down the cost of the blowers. So here's an example, and we've all seen it. Lack of training, lack of resources. This is just typically what goes on. So, that first of all, it's overkill. That is dry hardscape. Okay. Definitely most of the top electric models on the market will handle this workload, no problem, dry hardscape. But it's also the practice. There's barely any debris. Yes, the clients, they want everything looking perfect after they pay the gardener for the month. They expect that once a week, pristine service. But in spite of that, the operator should not be blowing dust in the air and debris in the air and then just pushing it out to the street. So this is a training issue. And this is why we really stress that training and resources for training and these solutions are critical, and we need more of it. AGSA has noticed when we've been able to really engage the workforce of this industry, we are seeing tremendous results. These are from some green zone certification projects we've done. And again, you see the word work together with the workforce of the landscape maintenance industry. And then here's a result of providing resources and that type of education. Here's a result of it. Okay, AGSA Raw here. Real world, real people, real maintenance situations. We have a Stihl BGA 100 backpack battery leaf blower. This is a very hardworking guy. I know him personally. He is one of the crews that help maintain one of AGSA's green zone cities. And as you could not hear barely what he's doing, he's about 10 feet away from me. And you can see how they've been trained with the certification to use the blower judiciously, not more power than needed. We do encourage them to kick up the least amount of dust and to use rakes and brooms mixed in with the electric technology. Until next time. Wow, I'm like in a state of Zen right now. It was very meditative watching that because these operators, before they were using the electric and then after, they're really telling us off to the side, private conversations, how much more pleasant it is to do this line of work in this way. We're encouraging blowers to only be used on dry or wet hardscape, broadcast the organic debris back into the beds as mulch or on the turf to for the lawnmowers to mulch, if you will. Okay, electric blower essentials. If you're going to be purchasing one of these things, here are some things that you really want to look out for. And we really want to stress, we are not giving any formal advice. You always need to read the operating manual for the brand that you choose. And we recommend researching the warranty prior to purchasing, but definitely understand the warranty. Have a good relationship with who you're purchasing it from so they could help service that warranty. Whether you're a homeowner or professional, we always are going to recommend proper PPE, eye, ear, and then hand protection if necessary. Charging, I'm just gonna, these are the things that you don't have to consider so much. Amperage draws, dedicated circuits, breakers, temperature. That's more of a commercial thing when setting up large fleets. With that being said, most of the standard chargers of the blowers, prosumer residential level that are sold at retailers now, they're going to be drawing anywhere from 4 to 6 amps out of the plug. They're very, very safe. And just know that the battery has a BMS in it, a battery management system, and that is going to communicate with the charger. And you can just put it on, and then it's going to shut off when it's fully charged. Just so you know, there's no memory in these. It's all calibrated with the BMS and the circuit board inside the charger. The last one, recycling. We really want you to refer to the sticker on the battery itself and also the information that's inside the operating manual. So here's some things that you don't want to do. And we've seen this in homeowner situations where, okay, you'll get a blower. And then you're like, oh, wow, this is great. I'm going to get a weed whacker, a hedge trimmer, a stick edger, and a lawnmower. And all of a sudden you have a full suite of tools, right? And then you're going to be plugging all of those multiple chargers in. And you really don't want to use an off-the-shelf power strip. And you can see here, there's an off-the-shelf power strip, and it's actually hooked up to, plugged into a homeowner rated extension cord. This is really sloppy, and it's frankly very, very dangerous, this setup here. Not to mention that the tools are less than 2 years old, and this is about $11,000 of tools. And this is for a commercial situation. But when you're at home, you want to set your charging situation at more like this. Have a nice flat open area, well ventilated, dedicate a couple of circuits to your chargers, and then rotate those batteries in and out of the chargers that you have. I would not recommend hooking up multiple chargers inside our on off-the-shelf power strip. Now, if you have the money, this green box that you see here, that's not a power strip. That's called a power distribution manager. And that is a device that helps manage all the different amperage draws and will never let you go over 16 amps. It's more for a commercial application, but nonetheless, something that we can share tonight. So, cradle to grave cycle life potential. How long can a battery actually last? This is not giving a company any kind of commercial, but we started originally with handheld tools, with steel tools, and we have those original steel tools. The batteries are 10 years old, and it's because we know how to take care of them. And you're going to make sure that, for example, you don't want to set up your charging inside a metal shed, a hot, sweltering, unventilated garage. Make sure that your area is reasonably ventilated and temperature controlled. The more extreme temperatures your batteries are exposed to, the lower the cradle to grave cycle life potential you will have. In sub-zero temperatures, we haven't really been able to track any cradle to grave cycle life potential differences in aging the battery faster. than it should be, but definitely it will in very low temperatures, it will be sluggish, but you should be using these tools not in the dead of winter, just basically maybe through Thanksgiving and up to Christmas, even on the East Coast now because temperatures are changing. Another thing that can lower the cradle to grave cycle life potential of a battery is intensity, frequency, duration of use. Heavy use will lower the life cycle of the batteries, and then fast chargers will age batteries faster. Okay, so preventative maintenance, and I think it kind of carries over commercial to homeowner, if you will. If you have an air compressor, this is going to be your new best friend. But I always say, and it's a habit of mine, and I know if Zach Klein is on today, I know he's done it too. Anytime you disconnect something or reconnect, I constantly find myself blowing out all of where everything connects, making sure there's no debris in there. But here's an example of preventative maintenance with air compressor. Good morning, Dan May of American Green Zone Alliance. Just a quick tutorial on maintenance of commercial electric tools. Here you see we have a couple of steel blowers. We have a backpack battery, a hedge trimmer, a charger, and then we also have a bunch of, if we can see here, onboard batteries. So what we do is bring them into the shop with the compressor, and for the tools where the ports are, you're just going to really want to get in there and get all the dust out on the ports here where everything connects, if you will. Okay, even in there. Okay. Now, after you do that, you're going to want to find an anti-corrosive and a lubricant, and then also something that promotes electrical properties, such as this CRC that we've been using for over a decade. They actually have the food grade one as well. But just want to remind everybody, at least once a month, you want to get in there, again, get that compressor and make sure that you're going to be cleaning all the debris out from the chargers, the batteries, the tools, and then once every 3 months, use something to protect the corrosion on all of the ports and the batteries. Thank you. So for homeowners, just pay attention to where everything connects with the battery, the charger, and into the tool. Make sure there's, you're not mashing it with debris in there. And yeah, definitely, even with a cloth, you can just wipe some of the connectors and make sure everything's clean in there. And that will really extend the life of your tools. And I just really want to stress it's important for us to extend the life of all tools and all things for the sake of our environment. We are using some precious materials to create these batteries, and we really want to make sure these batteries last as long as possible. Good morning, Dan. Okay, so looking at this from like 1,000-foot view, this entire shift, it's not just the industry, it's property owners and industry together, a paradigm shift in our societal thinking of what our properties should look like, and then balancing, a clean, tidy, organized society with the way our properties look, while balancing that with nature and ecology. So we need some fresh thinking about how your landscape maintenance is conducted. Communication is the key. So we call this example hyper manicured landscaping. And I can just tell you there's probably not a lot of natives on this property in the beds. It's clean, it's organized, but to myself, it's bland. Versus this, and you can see this is more what we call a rustic look and at one with nature. The leaves are on the grass. The homeowner's okay with it. This homeowner allows the hardscape to be blown off onto the grass. The leaves are mulched with a mower, a gas mower, but it could be electric as well. And this is what we consider the more rustic look versus hyper manicured. And in doing this, we really haven't seen any property values drop between this look and that look. So the landscapers for the past 4 or 5 decades, we've been kind of engineered to make sure that the client receives this. And believe me, I was in the gas industry, and even when I did it all electrically, they're paying and they expect their properties to look perfect before you leave. I would get calls before we had the technology we do, that, hey, there's leaves on my lawn and on my walkway. And there wasn't any when I left. And then, once we started to get better cell phone technology, we would go ahead and take a picture of the property and send it to the client immediately after to let them know the wind blew and there were leaves that came from the trees onto the property from the time that we left. So homeowners, sometimes we don't know what we want. So we refer back to the landscaper who really has it etched in that this is what I need to provide. So the homeowner has to communicate with the gardener. All right, here's some low impact approaches, if you will, biodiversity forward, we call it, inputs versus outputs. Inputs versus outputs. On my property, I try not to put any outputs, and I have a huge oak tree, and I'm composting. I'm using those leaves as mulch, and sometimes I have to do outputs, and then I'll put it in the green waste can as a last resort. You may not be that forward, but we are encouraging for any organic material to stay on the property if you can do it and make good use of it. Here's an example of a pollinator garden. You can put a pollinator garden in if you're in a situation where you think you have too much turf and you have some extra money to spend. You can hire somebody who is an expert, a local expert in plants, native plants and pollinators in your area, and definitely take out a section of your turf and put this in. Okay, so now we're going to do 3 really quick videos. I had to shorten them because we're on, we only have so much time this evening. This was during COVID, but it's good that it was because, we didn't just go out and try to film something really quick for this presentation. But here are the joys of what we call people-powered tools. We'll start with the rake. Finally, we have the rake. I love raking, actually. So this is pretty heavy stuff I need to rake through. And again, these leaves are going to be used for mulching purposes. Now I'm feeling the workout in the upper body, and it's great. So yeah, during COVID, I put on a lot of weight, and I have to tell you, I was already getting winded, but I did a lot of raking during COVID, if you will, just to keep me in shape. Okay, and now we're going to look at the joys of using a broom. Okay, we're back, and now we are featuring people power tools. If you don't want to disturb the neighbors, and again, you don't want to use gas or electric, why not a good old-fashioned broom? Very good exercise as well. What we have here, a ground sweeper. We're going to show you how it works in our next segment. All right, so the broom, we used an electric line trimmer to cut all the turf down there, and then you can see we're just putting it right back on the parkway there as just organic material and mulch, if you will. And in the background, you probably saw there were plenty of Southern California natives because we live in a really water challenged area. And then next, we're going to look at the sweeper. It's now 9 years old. When I filmed this, I think it was 7 years old. Okay, we're back, and look what we have here. We have what we call a little ground sweeper. This one is actually from Germany, and this little sweeper is 7 years old. And this is how simple it is. You're going to attach this capture container to the brushes in the front, walk behind it, and just walk forward. It's that simple. We'll do a few passes here. So instead of blowing debris into your neighbor's side of the property and being rude, or blowing it out in the street for cars to drive by and to have it broadcast back into your property, you capture it in here. And look how much that picked up right there. So that's also put on the walkway to put over the weeds and keep that weed growth down. Here's an example of a couple in Westchester County, New York. They came to one of our workshops and they said, you know what, I think we're going to go in a different direction. They purchased a suite of tools and started doing their own yard when they purchased their first home. Congratulations to them. And I think now they've since hired a gardener, but require the gardener to use their electric tools that stay on their property, if you will. So that's one option that people are doing. So we need to ask, what steps can homeowners and gardeners take together today? And again, this is that communication thing that I stressed earlier. Of course, you can stop or reduce the use of gas leaf blowers. You can, until you're required not to use them, maybe just request only during fall cleanup. But you can certainly say, hey, you don't want any gas leaf blowers used on your property. Definitely mulch the leaves with a mower. And by the way, you can leave the leaves. Use a rake or broom in selected areas. I know some people roll their eyes, but if you can just get in the routine and start doing it, I do it to this day, and I don't think I'm ever going to stop doing it. Use electric blowers efficiently and judiciously. You don't want to purchase your electric blower and then use it like your gas blower. We gave examples of how to be a little bit more ecologically forward, if you will. Try to use them only on hardscapes. Homeowners, you can consider paying gardeners more money to go electric. I know that there are electric companies out there that offer service in your area. And I'll mention one a little bit later that I know of who may be on the call today. Gardeners, if you're here, you need to consider how important you are to the quality of life, to the communities you serve. And then lastly, you can again keep leaves under trees and in the garden beds for nutrients, mulch, weed suppression, and natural habitat. You definitely don't even want to use an electric blower to strip of valuable nutrients off of the topsoil there. What steps can gardeners and landscapers take to learn more? Well, luckily, AGSA is coming to town again, in-person training and field day for commercial operators on March 12th, 2025. Homeowners, save the date. If you have gardeners, you'll receive information and definitely try to get them to come there. AGSA is going to be giving tutorials and a lot of the information and answer the questions they have. And it will be primarily for the leaf blowers, but we will definitely be expanding on all of the tools. Where we have honest conversations, we give realistic expectations, and we will have this fully bilingual in English and Spanish. You want to research the tools carefully and learn from others in the field. And then again, we go back to people-powered tools. It's not just trivial. It's been being done for a long time. And if you can integrate those with electric tools, then you can be a lot more less impactful in your community. You want to take care of the equipment and your workers, add rakes and brooms to your hardscape operations. You can extend mowing services into the fall, or if you're a homeowner, use your mower, even if it's gas, to mulch those leaves as much as you can. And then you just really want to make sure that that the leaves, you understand that they're a free source of nutrients for mulch for gardens, trees, and lawns. And here's some examples. There's Mary, and then we have Zach on the right. I'm sorry, I don't know who the woman is in the middle there. But yeah, we came out and did some outreach. It was highly rewarding. Zach, if you're here, I definitely want you to, in the Q&A, introduce yourself, because I've known Zach Klein for over a decade. He's been doing this not only with electric tools, but organic services in your area for over a decade. Very experienced. And again, we thank you for helping us out, Zach, taking us out and engaging all of the industry that's locally there, spreading your knowledge and helping us spread our knowledge to help make this transition. Okay, electric leaf blower voucher program. Vouchers will be available round number 2 to landscapers and homeowners starting in July of 2025. The Montgomery County Electric Leaf Blower Program is a voucher-based process. Eligible participants will start by filling out the leaf blower rebate application available online at the official Montgomery County website. Participants can also apply for vouchers at participating program dealers. A lot of people like to do it that way. Your application will need to go through an approval process, and notification will be sent once you are approved. Participants can then complete the purchase at the program dealer of choice. Round number 1, I'm not sure how much funding is left. You'll have to defer to the team at the county. But definitely round number 2 is coming in 2025. Okay, so everybody asks, where are all the batteries going? And it's a very fair and a question that should be asked. Honestly, when I first started doing this, there was no economy to recycle lithium batteries. So what was the strategy? What did you do with them? Throw them in a landfill? No. In the garbage? No. You had to stockpile them, literally. But luckily for us, there is an economy now, and it's growing every single year to recycle lithium batteries. So what are the responsibilities of the end user and then the manufacturer? Well, with the end user, it starts with never ever throwing lithium batteries in the garbage. If they end up in the whole system, they can end up in these trash trucks and catch fire. It's happened. Or catch fire at a facility and compromise worker safety and really interrupt the operations there. And it has happened, very rare, but it has. As the battery electric movement expands, it's critical that all of us take steps to ensure batteries are reused, recycled, and disposed of in a responsible manner to, again, prevent or reduce these negative impacts on the planet. Most lithium batteries are now recyclable for production of new batteries. And we're going to tell you there's stickers on the batteries themselves that you can call. And then you should be able to, as a first step, be able to take them back to the place where you purchase them. And then they will communicate and make arrangements with the manufacturer to get them where they need to be. And just so you know, AGSA does go behind the veil on that, and we are tracking where these batteries are ending up. Okay, we're going to continue this. Before you recycle a battery, if it's at the end of the life or if it's damaged, you're going to check with the manufacturer for warranty information and make sure that you're entitled to the warranty if you're still in the warranty time frame there. And speaking about the warranty, do not forget to register your warranty at the time of purchase. If you have a good retailer, they're going to tell you to do that because some of the manufacturers will not recognize or acknowledge anything that you have unless you've registered it. And some of them require that you register it within 30 days of your purchase. Residents and businesses in Montgomery County, you can bring batteries for recycling 7 days a week to the Shady Grove Transfer Station at 16101 Frederick Road. And I am going to take a step back and a pause, and I'm going to hand it back over to Mary, who's going to go ahead and elaborate on the last couple of slides and give you some resources.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dan. We're getting pretty close to wrapping it up. As a reminder, the chat is open. If you have a question, please place it in the chat there and we'll get to it. We do want to note that for residents of Montgomery County, businesses in Montgomery County, and also for those of you outside of the county, you can glean a lot of this information and more at our website, which is montgomerycountymd.gov/leaf blowers. There's tons of information in there. We can also help you answer questions. We do have 311, which is a general contact line. If you have concerns, questions, violation complaints, things like that, will go to 311. But please come to our website and learn more there.
Well,
And then
okay.
we wanted to also just say thank you for coming. And again, more resources at our website. Rebates will be available after July of 2025. If you need to contact myself or my team directly, you can email us at askdep@montgomerycountymd.gov.